Hello there and welcome to our highlights for week 4 of the BUSR Summer Championships. Let's get underway with our action from Assetto Corsa Competizione. Our Assetto Corsa Competizione competitors this week were brought to a wet Hungaroring for an endurance event. In qualifying, it was student driver Joe Scher out-qualifying everybody, so the only time in the 1 minute 50s. His Ferrari on pole position from alumni drivers Marley Watts and Jack Noller. Joe pulled away from the pack at the start of the race whilst Noller was getting a move done on Watts. The two squabbled for position until Watts went off the track, and now Perkins is challenging for second place, until the contact between the two saw Noller spin and fall down the grid. The track was proven tricky to stay on in the wet conditions as Aidan Larson, Jonan Turner and Sam Knight would each receive a drive-through penalty for track limits. The Joshes of Perrott and Lodge would battle at the back, after Perrott had to solve a stop-go 30 penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But unfortunately the battle would end when Lodge spun on the slippery curbs, damaging Watts' car in process. After a challenging climb towards the top, Noller would be unlucky when he received 2 warnings resulting in a drive-through for a single off-track moment, ending his chances at a podium and retiring shortly thereafter. An incident in the closing stages of the race caused Owen Goldsmith to drop a couple of places and would attempt to chase down the Ferrari of Astrakantsev, but would get a drive-through penalty with only minutes left in the race. But in the end, it was Scher and his Ferrari who dominated the race from start to finish, taking the win. James White was close behind in second place, with Jimmy Lynn in third. A final lap penalty for Charlotte Perkins took her down from P5 behind Astrakantsev into P8, giving Chapman and Dobbins a free position. Next week the drivers would head to Imola for a sprint weekend around the famous Italian track. This week our iRacing drivers are brought to the USA International Speedway in the street stocks. Close qualifying at Lakeland saw Jonan Turner take pole with Pete Staver taking second place. Charlotte Perkins got third whilst Marley Watts rounded out the grid in P4. With a great start, Turner led away the pack with Stather and Watts battling behind for P2 and Perkins falling further back. Stather would break loose from Watts and stick close to Turner whilst Perkins overtook Watts for P3. After some chasing, Stather would get Turner on the inside, but Turner would stay close and attempt to get the position back. Stather, however, will get loose on the outside and turn the number 54 car into the wall, which resulted in the first caution of the day, and Perkins taking the lead. Perkins would lead the pack on the restart, but will lose to Stather after brushing the wall. In the end, Stather would come across the line first with fresher tyres and Perkins close behind. Watts would ride the barrier on the final corner, attempt to be Ross Chastain to come across the line in P3, with Turner rejoining and finishing the race in 4th. In the second race, Stather would lead the pack on the start and Turner would make up 2 positions in a single corner, eventually taking the lead, with Perkins and Watts battling at the back. Perkins would get loose and drive into a barrier, allowing Watts through. With Turner building a large lead, the battle for P2 was now between Stather and Watts. Perkins would leave the pits, but it wouldn't be a day as she would go into the wall again and back into the pits, meaning the end of her race. However, it would soon become a 2-horse race for the win when Watts' engine blew up, being the next person sent into the barriers. Stather would drive his best, but the gap to Turner was too great, Turner going from 0 to hero and taking the race win, Stather almost a second behind. After a bye week, our iRacing competitors will head to Okayama on the 10th of August, back behind the wheel of their trusty Mazda MX-5s. Formula 1 this week takes our drivers to narrow and historic streets of Monaco. An evening qualifying session saw Matti and Dasher with impressive times at the top, the only drivers breaking the 1 minute 10 barrier. CRM and Joe would be on the second row, with Geek's Red Bull down in 5th. It was night on the race start, and Matti would keep his position at the front, while Joe gained a position on Dasher through the first corner. In a now traditional fashion, the drivers would make it only halfway around the track before a car park was filmed, with Wilson, GWS, Perkins and SJ. Wilson's stage does not improve as he puts his car into a wall in the out of the race, and causes a virtual safety car by the end of the first lap. A safety car would come out when GWS was the next to put the car into the barriers, while most came in for fresh tyres. Mad Dog stayed out of the hard tyres, which put him into second place. Matty would lead the pack on the race restart and gained a 3-second lead by the end of the first lap. Mad Dog had the older tyres backing everyone up, allowing the gap to extend to as much as 10 seconds before he eventually fell to 5th. SJ was having a terrible time at the back, pitting a record 10 times in 25 laps and using 8 sets of tyres, but would come to an end when his car ended up in the wall and Mad Dog followed seconds later. In the closing stages of the race, Geek would get P3 from Dasher into the third corner, with a scary overtake where he hit a wall but made the move stick. At the front of the field, Matty had a moment where he needed a change of underwear after Perkins lost control on the brake and ended up in the wall, tapping the rear of Matty's car. After a dominant race, Matty would cross the finish line in first, with Joe 12 seconds behind in second and Geek in third after starting in 5th. Next weekend, the drivers head to Suzuka for another sprint race and the Japanese Grand Prix. Dirt Rally 2.0 saw our competitors headed to Land Down Under in Australia and with championship leader Jack Noller away on work duties, it was a no-holds-barred, all-out battle for a new winner in the land. A good roster for the week saw every car and class represented, a feat that will be difficult to repeat in the following weeks. Charlotte Perkins and Ed Haskell had issues in the very first test. Ed managed to pick up a triple puncher on the stage, while Charlotte Perkins was unable to clear the first stage due to terminal damage in her Alpine. Ed joined her with the retirement list in the very next test. That was too big of his Fiat to continue. The top three were still full of the familiar faces trying to take the throne vacated by Jack Noller. Asher V was the first one out of the starting blocks and the fastest person through the first test, with Penelope Dobbins taking the lead soon after on the second stage. However, the gap remained lower than 10 seconds between the top three. After stage 3, the gap was lower than 5. After stage 4, it was barely a second. Come stage 7, we had a new leader in the event. Doomskull took an unbroken lead, holding on to the end of the rally to take the first non-Noller win of the season and taking the power stage win in the process, meaning that every winner of the event has taken the maximum points haul so far this season. Asher V held on to second and second place in the power stage, 8 seconds behind Doomskull, whilst Penny rounded off the podium in both, finishing 30 seconds down on the event winner. The top 5 was rounded out by Adam Benjamin and Ewan West. Next week, our competitors will be headed to the gravel highways of Finland, the famous Thousand Lakes Rally on the awe-inspiring Onimpoja test, and they will be driving some rolled rally cars from years gone by. And that brings to a close our action for week 4 of the BUSR Summer Championship. I'm Cav. Thank you so much for joining, and if you want to get involved in the action yourself, you can do that by going to busr.gg/discord. Thanks for watching. We'll see you around.